This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
I'll be here until they tell me otherwise.
Well, I'd like to be there, and I may be there if you do play, but I'm just fearful this forecast is not going to be wrong. And leave it to the baseball gods to screw up, to me, what could be one of the more interesting storylines going in, maybe the best pitcher in college baseball against a team that might have the best all-around hitting. But and I hate doubleheaders. I know you're used to them, but I'd prefer they find a way to play or maybe push this series back, but I just don't know.
Yeah, your guess will be as good as mine. I think it'll depend on how long they're willing to wait because of rain and because of lightning, but we'll see. But you're right, too. I mean, this is a really difficult A&M lineup to maneuver through. And for one thing, like they're not just good, they're veterans. You know, guys that have been around college baseball for a long time, but also have tried to, transferred up to see what they could do at this level, like a Jackson Appel who was at Penn previously, or an Ali Camarillo who was at Northridge before, Ted Burton who was at Michigan. I mean, these guys were, or Braden Montgomery at Stanford. Like, he could have stayed there, but you test yourself in the SEC, and each one of these guys, I mean, they've transferred in and they've succeeded here.
Oh, it's a good point. It reminds me a little bit of LSU last year because we talked about Dylan Cruz and Tommy Tanks, and Cruz was going to be the number 2 overall pick, and Tommy White, one of the best RBI and home run hitters in his college career during these 3 years. But there were Dugas. You go down the list, there were a handful of other really good college hitters and players, and Braden Montgomery is fantastic. Jace Lavalette is one of the best power hitters in the country, too. But there's nice components around him, whether it's a freshman at the top of the lineup or some of the transfers you mentioned. I mean, Jim Schlossnagle is no dummy when it comes to putting together a roster and going out and trying to bring some people into the SEC and into A&M. And that's why it hasn't taken long for them to be competitive. And this Western Division, to me, looks a little different because 2-3 years ago, of course, it was LSU, Arkansas, and then you mix in Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And now you've seen A&M kind of creep up there with Arkansas, and then maybe Ole Miss and Mississippi State kind of taking a step backwards, and that's why I think this series is intriguing. And if you're a fan, you love it that it comes late in the year. If you're a fan of the two teams, maybe you wish it didn't, because a lot of hard work might be tilted in one direction or another when it comes to winning this division or winning the SEC. But no, I'm with you. I think this lineup that A&M poses is really tough, and that's why I'd love to see Arkansas's pitching, Phil, kind of clicking on all cylinders, because it's been Arkansas kind of pitching and defense and A&M offense, but A&M's pitching might be a little better than Arkansas's offense as a whole this year, so it makes it a little more, I think, interesting if all three of these games get played on time.
Hey, Brett, Arkansas, number 3 team in the country, and they're making a pitching change. What are your thoughts on that? Some would say, let them fight through it. You are the number. It's not like all of a sudden we're outside of the top 10 now. They're still competitive, still have a chance to win it. But Gage Wood going to get his first SEC start coming up either, I guess, today or tomorrow. I mean, would it be tomorrow, Phil?
It would be, yeah.
Matt, I'm excited for it, and I think as you posed that question, it made me think, because this has been a team in the top 5 all year, really in the top 3. And, I've heard Phil say it before, and I agree with him 100%. For this team to really go to Omaha and get deep, they're going to need Brady Tigert and Molina to be successful. Now, it hasn't happened the last couple of weeks, and DVH is the ultimate, and I don't want to use the word tinker. I just think he just has a way of kind of picking the right days to put certain guys in the lineup or maybe pull somebody back. And I support it. I just think these deficits that the team has had to endure on these Saturday and Sunday games, or games 2 and 3 of the series, has not been good. And I would not have bet on them coming back last Sunday. It just didn't look like it was going to happen. To their credit, they found it. But, I mean, I'm all for throwing Gage Wood or even Ben Bybee out there this weekend. And I know the tournament's coming up soon in Hoover, but I feel like if these guys give you a chance, Gage in particular, and he throws 4 innings, then maybe you bring in a Mason Molina or maybe Tigert if he isn't skipped this weekend, and let those guys go. And if they're able to go 4 innings again, it shortens the game. Now, if they're going to struggle and it's the 5th inning or 6th inning when they come on, you no longer have to walk that tightrope and say, I have to stick with my starter. I can't take my starter out after 20 pitches. You can if a relief pitcher is not successful. I mean, you have that leeway, and maybe Gage can give them a better chance to compete in games 2 and 3. I fear there's going to be a day somewhere where Arkansas is actually going to lose a Hagen start. And if that's the case, you really need games 2 and games 3
Bite your tongue.
to go well.
Bite your tongue.
I mean,
that doesn't happen.
I'm with you.
No.
You hope, it came close in Florida, and then you were a little bit concerned last weekend. And, the guy's really good, but it doesn't mean he's perfect, or it doesn't mean Arkansas is going to score some runs. But I just feel like they've got to figure this out a little bit better on Saturdays and Sundays, or games 2 and 3 of the series. And this is really the last regular season weekend to tinker before you head to Hoover, which is kind of a shell game in and of itself.
How dare you suggest that they could lose a game started by Hagen Smith? Have you not been – come on, Brett. You're going to throw that out there? No, but it's true, though, and you want to at least – and that's one of the things we've wondered throughout the year. It's like, well, at some point they lose a game that Hagen pitches, so you need somebody in the back 2 games. Still hasn't happened yet. But, look, A&M's already made a change. Potentially, they made a change last week. They threw a lefty in Shane Sadeo instead of the guy that had been making their Sunday starts. The other guy, the other lefty, Justin Lampkin, he might not throw tomorrow. They went with a TBA tomorrow because he's been really bad. Part of this also, too, so there's a couple extra things here, Brett. Just because Molina isn't listed as the starting pitcher for Saturday doesn't mean he's not going to pitch on Saturday. He still could. I think depending on what happens in the first 2 games, he could still get a start on Saturday. And that could be a really good thing for him to show that, he's able to take a step past that. So,
no, I would agree. I think
go ahead.
If Gage Wood again throws 4 or 5 innings and you bring Mason on, he's successful. Maybe he finishes that game, especially if you have to empty the tank on a Friday and throw out a Fouch or McIntyre, whatever the case may be. It gives you that opportunity. I think the one wild card, though, Phil, that kind of gave me pause, and I think it didn't surprise us, but you still hated to hear Dave say it this week, is that maybe they'll just skip Brady altogether. I mean, his velocity was a little bit down, and he was posed a direct question, was DVH, and he said, maybe we'll just rest him this weekend, because he was in that 90-91 rather than 93-ish, 94 range, and that meant that he leaned on that curveball a lot. And that curveball, sometimes it has great spin, but it hits guys. You can see it. You lay off it if it's not in the zone or they aren't chasing it. It's high pitch counts and whatnot. So that, to me, is the biggest concern. I mean, skipping Brady this weekend's not the biggest deal, but does that mean he's going to be fresh and ready to go in a week or so, or is this an issue that's coming at the worst possible time?
Well, and also, who takes the role that Gage Wood had? Because look at what he did last week. I mean, he was the guy.
I like Molina. I think he could do that. Fit in, trying to come in and get 6 outs, 5 outs. Do you like that, Phil? You don't.
Brett, what do you think? I mean, because he's pitched in relief as a freshman. Pitching is pitching. Just because you haven't done it since you were a freshman doesn't mean you can't do it now. It's just a different role. Do you think he could fill in maybe that same role that Wood had filled in if things are right?
Well, I think there's a couple of thoughts to that. Bringing somebody into a bases-loaded, nobody-out situation might not be Mason, maybe a little more pitch to contact or whatever. I mean, Gage Wood felt like he was meant for that situation, if anybody was going to get out of that the other day. By getting 3 outs and not allowing to run to score. If I wanted somebody to come on and maybe get some quick outs and be effective and hope that Mason was throwing strikes, I wouldn't mind running him out there for a longer period of time. I think he wants to be in that rotation, but the best way maybe for him to get back is to pitch well in whatever role he's called upon. If that's kind of a long relief, and to me, a long relief can also, finish a game. I think McIntyre earlier in the year was that guy that would come on and maybe come on in the 6th inning or whatever, and if he was effective, he just kept rolling, and there was no need to get Fouch up or get Gackle up, and that's, I'd still be – Arkansas's done a great job using those guys, Fouch and Gackle. You hate to lean on them too much in these last couple of weeks before you're really going to need to do that maybe in the postseason for the regionals or supers.
Brett, what team – look at the last I guess we'd say 2 national championships, because Mississippi State they played at home to get there, and we're kind of looking at them like, yeah, that's a team that could make a run. Ole Miss got in as the last team in 2 years ago. They win the Natty. Last year, LSU didn't really have the kind of regular season that I think we expected. Then they go ahead and have the kind of postseason that we did expect. Is there a team outside of the top 4 right now in the SEC that you think could make a run that people aren't paying attention to?
That's a good question. When you started to pose that question, I thought in general, Wake Forest was a team that we thought was going to be really good. that all of a sudden wasn't playing very good baseball that seems to have really kind of locked in as of late. We don't get to see them, of course, because we're so focused on the SEC. I don't know. I mean, it does feel like it's possible, though, right? I mean, just because we might not throw a team out there immediately, just what you went through with Ole Miss a couple of years ago, barely getting in and then kind of finding some magic, I think is just a storyline that it shows it's possible. I think that, you need the right draw. You need a little bit of luck. You need to be playing right or well at the right time of the year. And there's a lot of components to that. And sometimes we feel like we have a pretty good read on it going into the regionals, and then you're 2 games into the regional, and like, oh, my goodness, TCU is better than I thought. This team's not playing well. And it shows you what a crapshoot it is. I'd have a hard time throwing one out there right now outside of the top 4, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if somebody found a way to get to Omaha, kind of like Auburn even did a few years ago when you didn't think they were maybe a College World Series type team.
Brett, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you hopping on, man. Thank you. And, hey, what day are you looking at maybe coming to College Station? Was it today, weather permitting?
It was today. Yeah, I've got high school graduation this week in Houston, so I'd like to see Hagen pitch today and get out there. But, it just keeps getting darker and darker in the part of Texas I'm at right now. So I hope that's not the case for you.
No, they just covered the field, so it tells you what they think's about to happen here. That's for sure. Brett, appreciate you, man. Maybe we'll see you. Maybe we won't.
All right, guys.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.